Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. Now in this video what I want to do is talk more about making your own web component library. So usually when I talk about web components, I kind of treat web components similar to components in Angular, Vue, and React, where they're more like encapsulated pieces of UI that have like greater levels of app logic. Now the approach I'm taking in this video is more like creating sort of still kind of UI components, but you're not necessarily building your whole application with them. You're more like sprinkling them in there, kind of like when you use like components in Bootstrap or Materialize, where the only difference here is that you don't have to copy a bunch of JavaScript, you don't have to copy a bunch of CSS or copy a bunch of classes. You're going to have just an HTML tag that has your component built in. That's the beauty of web components. It makes it easier to kind of work with a lot of these like sort of pre-built things. But the question is, if you want to design your own web components to sort of be your personal library or to create a library for somebody else, what are some of the considerations in doing so and how you do it? So what we're going to do is we're going to just create like a button component and just kind of show you sort of how you would think this through. Okay, so let me go to project. Oh no, I mean components. I want to make a new folder here. We're going to call it project 2. And you could use my web component libraries to make these kind of components. Maybe make them a little bit easier since I built so many features into those web component libraries. That's up to you. But here we go. So I'm going to create a new file. It's going to be our index.html so we can test out our library. And then a new file, library.js. So that's our web component library. So this could be a standard web component library that you use from project to project. Okay, so let's see here. Open with live server. And let's see here. So right now it's just going to come out blank. But the browser's got to open. I haven't opened up the browser. It just restarted my computer. So that's going to be an issue. So let's open up Chrome. But in the meantime, let's get our boilerplate going. What's with VS Code today? Probably it's because it's still waiting to get this whole live server thing set up. Okay. Well, we'll create one more file, app.js. Oh, there it goes. I'll let that do its startup stuff. Let's see if this works now. Nope. So again, we're going to make app.js, new file, app.js. So that would be sort of your personal project-specific JavaScript code. So the library.js is your library that you use from project to project. So we're going to create a basic web component. So again, the way you create a web component is first you're going to create a new class. We'll call this, super button. Okay, super button, and it's going to extend the HTML element class. Okay, and that's extends. There we go. So there you go. Technically right there you've created your class, but it doesn't really do anything. So there's a couple things you want to do. So first we're going to create the constructor. And in that constructor, what we want to do is a couple of things. One, we want to call the super, the parent constructor. You have to do that. And then we want to create a shadow DOM because you want all the styling to be encapsulated. Okay, we'll show you a way so you can sort of bleed through some of the deal, but you'll see. So create a shadow DOM. So that's going to be this dot attach shadow. And then as an argument, we're going to pass in an object with mode equals open. That's always going to be the case. There's never really a good reason to say close. Okay. Then there's a couple ways we can do this. To me, the easiest way to do this is to just say create the template. Okay, it's just to do this. This dot shadow root dot inner HTML. So this will be the template for your component equals. Okay, and there you go. Okay, and basically I'm going to put a style tag because we want to style it. And basically this is going to be a button tag. Okay, and basically we're going to want custom text in the button. So what we can do is we can use this get flavor attribute. So basically a prop. Now in my libraries I actually have a very useful function that just grabs all the attributes and properties of the HTML tag and puts them in an object called capture props. That makes this a little easier, but the idea here is to show you how to do this without any of my libraries. So it would just be like this dot get attributes or get attribute, and then we're going to pass in flavor. Okay, and then we want to save that in a variable const flavor equals, there we go. So it's going to be button. We'll interpolate the flavor so that way the button has whatever text you specify. Button. Okay, cool. And then in the style, what we'll do is we'll have our root selector. And we'll style everything using variables. Okay. Let me think about that for a second. Yeah, I'll style everything using variables. Or certain things using variables. Okay, so root. Actually, we won't even put that there. Okay. And what we will do is we're going to just style the button. And the button's text color is going to be a variable called bcolor. The back, oh, let me get a semicolon on that. The background color is going to be a variable called bg dash button color. And the font family will also be a variable called bfont. Okay, so basically allow whoever's using it to be able to change some CSS variables to change the colors, but the overall design of the button will be fixed. So in that case, those will be the parts that the user can change. So you have to kind of think through, like, what do you want the user to be able to change? What do you want to have sort of set in stone? So I want it set in stone that this button has padding. And again, I need a semicolon over here. I want it set in stone that this padding is, let's say, 6 pixels. Border radius is going to be, let's say, 10 pixels. And border radius is 10 pixels. Then, see anything else I want to kind of change. I want to say border none. Okay, that's I think gets the point across. Okay, so save. So there we've created our class, and now we just have to register it as an HTML tag. So custom elements dot define, and then the name of the tag, which will be super button, and the class that uses that HTML tag, super button. There we go. So let's go back to our index.html. I guess the boilerplate's not working today. That's weird. me just do this. Save. And let's try this again. Nope. Okie dokie. Interesting. HTML. Okay, and then we have to have the head tag. All the things that makes life easier in VS Code aren't there today, so I'll just have to do this the old-fashioned way. Okay, and then I just want my link tag or my script tags. So I have to do the script tags from scratch. Wonderful. Must have accidentally changed some sort of setting yesterday. Okay, so body script tag source equals library.js. There we go. And then script source equals app.js. Some quotations around this. Okay, and then we'll put super button in there. And we want the flavor to be click me. Script source. Let me just make sure that let's copy some script tags from somewhere else. Make sure I got all the other meta stuff that I need. Script source. Yeah, that one looks fine. Library.js. Yes. Did I call it super button? Let's go back, take a look. Super button, I did, so that should be the tag. Let's go take a look at the elements. Elements. There's a super button, just doesn't have any text in it. Because that's shadow, so that means I didn't attach this, right? So it's here. Oh, there it is. Inter. It's supposed to be inner HTML. There we go. That should fix it. So there's the code. So there's the CSS. And there's the button, but that is coming up null. So it didn't get the attribute the way we expected it to. So the flavor. So let's examine that. And let me just see here. Flavor. Let's go back to the index.html. Flavor equals click me. What did I write? This dot get attribute. I mean, that should work. This dot get attribute. Yeah, should be this that get attribute flavor. Const flavor, and then there's the variable flavor. Let's console log flavor, make sure that we are getting what we think we're getting. No. Interesting. Definitely has the attribute of flavor. Okay, let's see here. Let's see if I'm thinking about this wrong. Let's do a quick search. Get attribute JavaScript. That's the way I understood it. Take a look again. Library, const flavor. This dot get attribute flavor. Now let's see if I change this to get attributes. I should get a list. So let's see if I'm getting the right list. Okay, let's go to the console. Type this is not a function. Add new super button. Interesting. Get attribute. What's the function to get all attributes again then? I think maybe it's this. I think this is it. There we go. I think this is what I want. So this dot attributes. Actually, it might just be a property. Let's find out. Here we go. Yep, name node map. And yeah, there it is. Flavor. Okay, so it exists. It's not getting it for whatever reason. Node name flavor. Name flavor. And the value should be click me. So it exists. And it's a attribute of this. So let's try this a different way. Get attribute node. Let's see if I do that. Okay, and then we'll try flavor. And let's see what we get back. I get back null. Last I checked, that isn't, but I'm not going to stress out on this. Why it is not behaving. Oh, I know why. I forgot to put a deferred keyword here. Let's do that. There we go. That did it. Sorry it took so long to figure that one out. But again, the point is of why I don't edit this out, like why I don't edit out these bug hunts, is because I want you to see how I look for bugs, because that is as much an educational thing as whatnot, and knowing that you'll run into these bugs. Because if I don't let you see the bugs I run into, then when you run into them, you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I like to leave that stuff in there. So okay, we're getting that in there. Still not showing up. So let's take a look at the shadow DOM. Style. But now the button element is not showing up. So we're a step closer. Oh, but look what do we see here. The style tag is wrapping the button. So that means I included the button itself in the... Oh, I forgot to close the style tag. There we go. Okay, object attribute. Oh, okay, that's fine. I just need to change the function. This should be get attribute. There we go. So that we're getting the text. There we go. Click me. But see, there's no button. So see, when I click on it, you can see like the outline. Click me. There's the button. It's kind of not an ugly button. But right now it's not fully styled because there's the variables at play. So basically, if you provided this variable to a user, you would provide them with documentation, and then they would have their CSS. So I would create my custom CSS, style.css. And basically I would do my root selector to define some variables. Okay, and again, what are the variables? So again, you in your documentation, you would have like the list of variables that matter. So B color. So we're gonna say, where did my CSS go? B color, we'll say is orange. Or actually, let's just say pink. And then BG, B color will be black. So it'll be like pink text on black. Okay. And then B font, we'll say is Arial. Okay, let's see what that takes. So B color, PG color, B font. Wait, actually, well, I need to attach the style sheet to the index.html. So let me do that. Link. That's right, all my shortcuts are not working today, because why not? So let me just copy a link tag from to save time. Link relative style sheet. And it's going to be style.css. And see, so by changing those variables, I was able to customize the button to my liking. So basically, you can create a button where most of the general style stuff, but you can include some variables so that way people can choose the colors they want to match their color scheme, but they still get this nice, button. Okay, and then I can do something like this. I can make it a little bit more neat by doing something like this. Let me go back to library.js and then do a button hover where I just switch. I'm just going to swap out these two things. So we'll say this is going to be BG B color, and this will just be B color. So no matter what colors they chose, I get this nice cool effect where it inverts them with the button. So the idea is you can design components, whether it's a slider, a carousel, a modal. You can design useful pieces of UI and build in customizability that doesn't require it to be too complicated. It doesn't require them to have to copy a script tag into your code. It doesn't require them to have to rememorize a bunch of classes. They can just put the element in there. You could then transmit customization either through attributes, like what I did here with flavor, or through CSS variables. Okay, either way. Okay, I could actually just interpolate a bunch of attributes into the template here. I think the variables are a more suave solution, but either way works. But you can make it customizable. And you can do things like, yeah, that would be one way to do it. The one benefit you might have with attributes, but again, then the HTML tag gets a little crazy long. If you're putting in like 10, 20 attributes in there, but you can probably set default values. So basically, if the prop isn't defined, then it equals this. There probably are ways you can do that with the CSS variables as well. But yes, I mean, basically what they'd have to do, like if I wanted to define my own variables here, so let's see what happens if I define my own variables here, which one wins out. Color or root, just to kind of demonstrate how this would have to be done. Let's see here. Okay, B color, we will say, or I mean, yeah, B color, which will be the color of the font, we will say is black. And then BG.B color, we'll say is white. And then we'll say the B font is serif. Okay, now let's see which one wins. Okay, so in this case, my custom styles in my attached CSS file do still win. So you can define the variables in your shadow DOM, and then let's see if I comment out the styling, does it switch back? Okay, no, it doesn't take the one in my, see here, root, did I define this right? Black, B color, B font. They're defined correctly. Let me refresh this. What if I change this to body? Oh, well, it wouldn't be a body tag. So probably have to be like what, shadow root? Or host, I think actually. Host. Let's try that. Yep, there we go. Okay. So there, so basically instead of root, you'd use host because it has something to do with the component and the way the component is implemented. Okay, host, so you can put all your variables in there and see I get that action. Now let's see what happens if I go back and uncomment out root. Oop. Control Z. Control Shift. I do that. It still takes the host. Now let's see if I get more specific and I change this to button, because I might get a higher specificity since I'm specifying the... No, so that's going to override if you put variables in there. There is another way to do this that's built into components. What you can do, okay, is you can give this a part name. Okay, so I think if I remember right, you're just going to call this part, and we'll say the button. Okay, we'll call this S button. Okay. And then what we're able to do, let's see if this will work. We can do, I think it's colon part, and then you have to pass in what's the name of the part, which is S button. Let's see if that worked. Yep, and that works. Okay, so then what you would do, you can put in your own variables, so that way it has a default coloring. But then you would have to make sure that you label add a part property to the elements you want them to style. So that way they can add their own custom styling. But the easiest way in your documentation is to make sure that you put some variables they change, so that way they're not changing it too much. Yeah. And that's a cool thing you can do. So again, that way it has some default colors, so that way it by default looks cool. But if they want to customize the color, they can use the mixture of the CSS variables, custom elements, and the parts to make it pretty easy for them to customize, because they just have to customize the variables, and then they can reuse those variables in their own code, in their own custom CSS later on. So hopefully this gives you the idea of just sort of how to go about constructing your custom web component library, so that way you can create something that can be available to everybody else.